In this lecture, we'll have an overview of interpretation of cardiology X-ray chest PA view in the series Cardiology for Medical Students. X-ray chest PA view is the one routinely taken for cardiac evaluation. Lateral view and oblique views are rarely taken in specific situations. But interpretation of these views is more challenging than the PA view, mainly because of lack of familiarity due to lower usage. Chest X-ray PA view is taken with tube film bar sensor distance of 6 feet in the erect posture. Care is taken to keep the scapulae away from the lung fields by appropriate positioning. Standard imaging is done in held inspiration. These details are important to avoid artifactual enlargement of the cardiac salute. With a proper penetration level, spines of upper 3 thoracic vertebrae are visible while the lower ones are blurred. More vertebral spines are visible in an over-penetrated view. It is conventional to start reading by checking the side label so as not to miss a dextrocardia with an inverted film. Next comes soft tissue and bony cage. In a well-positioned X-ray without rotation, the medial ends of the clavicles are equidistant from the midline. Lower border of ribs may show notching, that is known as Dock sign, in coarctation of aorta due to erosion by collaterals. Rib notching is usually bilateral and seen in ribs 3 to 8. It can also be unilateral in certain other conditions. Thin translucent layer of air within mediastinum known as pneumomediastinum is a rare finding which can be easily missed. A hydropneumic pericardium is a still rare finding which manifests as an air fluid level within the cardiac silhouette. Horizontal extent of cardiac shadow divided by the internal transverse extent of the thorax above the diaphragm gives the cardiothoracic ratio, which is less than 50% normally. Tracheal air shadow and its division are important to check the visceral situs. The right bronchus is more vertical than the left bronchus. The left bronchus gets elevated with left atrial enlargement, causing widening of the subcarinal angle. Aortic knuckle is seen at upper end of the left cardiac border. Major part of the left border is the left ventricle. Right border is formed by the right atrium. The right hemidiaphragm is the upper limit of the liver shadow. Left hemidiaphragm is above the stomach bubble. The location of these are important in identifying the visceral status. Major part of the heart shadow is in the left hemithorax with the apex in the left lower part. This is reversed in dextrocardia. Normally, main pulmonary artery segment is in the concavity below the aortic knuckle, known as pulmonary bay. Left descending pulmonary artery is behind the cardiac shadow, parallel to descending thoracic aorta. Right descending pulmonary artery is seen lateral to the right bronchus air shadow. Pulmonary vessels are prominent in lower zones due to the effect of gravity. Now we will check on the aortic abnormalities on chest X-ray. Side of aortic arch is recognized by the indentation of tracheal air shadow. Normally it is on the left side as it is left aortic arch. In right aortic arch, the indentation is on the right side. Right aortic arch may be seen in tetralogy of Fallot and truncus arteriosus. This X-ray demonstrates the right aortic arch and a right ventricular type of apex in tetralogy of Fallot. Due to the poor penetration of the X-ray, the tracheal air column is not clear. Ascending aorta is seen well above the right atrial contour on the right cardiac border when it is dilated. Dilated ascending aorta can occur in post-stenotic dilatation aortic stenosis, annuloaortic ectasia in Marfan syndrome, and ascending aortic aneurysm. Aortic knuckle. Intimal calcification seen as a crescentic shadow is common in older individuals on the lateral aspect of aortic knuckle. The distance between the intimal calcification and the outer border of the aortic knuckle is increased in aortic dissection, typically more than 1 cm. This is known as calcium sign in aortic dissection. Descending aorta. Normally descending aorta is just visible behind the cardiac outline extending slightly beyond the left border of spine. It becomes prominent and tortuous in the elderly and when there is an aneurysm. Coarctation of aorta. In coarctation of aorta, figure 3 sign is composed of the post-stenotic dilatation of aorta and left subclavian artery, indentation of the coarctation site, and the post-stenotic dilatation. These three together contribute to the figure 3 sign. Reverse 3 or E sign is a mirror image of this pattern, seen as an indentation on the barium-filled esophagus on barium swallow study. Rib notching is seen in coarctation of aorta and has been discussed in preceding section. Now we will move on to pulmonary vessels on chest X-ray. Pulmonary vessels are more prominent in the lower zone due to effect of gravity. In pulmonary venous hypertension, as in mitral stenosis, upper lobe vessels are more prominent due to dilatation of pulmonary veins. There are several names for these prominent upper lobe vessels. 1. Antler sign, 2. cephalization, 3. redistribution, 4. inverted mustache sign. This chest X-ray shows prominent upper lobe vessels, that is Antler sign, prominent left atrial appendage, that is third Mogul sign, elevated left bronchus due to left atrial enlargement, and right atrial enlargement indicated by the rightward shift of right border. Main pulmonary artery segment is concave normally. It bulges out when it is dilated, as occurs in pulmonary arterial hypertension or post-stenotic dilatation in pulmonary stenosis. Main pulmonary artery segment can be prominent without pulmonary arterial hypertension in idiopathic dilatation of pulmonary artery, partial absence of left pericardium, absent pulmonary valve and association of tetralogy of Fallot. X-ray chest PA view showing mitral valve calcification in severe calcific mitral stenosis. 1. Aortic knuckle with intimal calcification, that is first Mogul. 2. Prominent main pulmonary artery segment, that is second Mogul. 3. Prominent left atrial appendage, that is third Mogul. 4. Calcification in mitral valve. 5. Elevated left bronchus, a feature of left atrial enlargement. 6. Double atrial contour, border of enlarged left atrium, shadow within shadow on the right border. 7. Right atrial border shifted to right, suggestive of right atrial enlargement. Right pulmonary artery is seen lateral to the right bronchial air shadow. It can be dilated in pulmonary arterial hypertension and absent pulmonary valve syndrome with or without tetralogy of Fallot. Abrupt cutoff of right pulmonary artery is seen in pulmonary embolism and it is known as knuckle sign. Along with this, right descending pulmonary artery becomes prominent in pulmonary embolism and it is known as Palla sign. An area of focal oligemia due to embolic obstruction of a large pulmonary branch is known as Westermarck sign. Right pulmonary artery is not dilated in post-stenotic dilatation of pulmonary artery and idiopathic dilatation of pulmonary artery. Left pulmonary artery descends behind the heart shadow parallel to the descending aorta. It is dilated in pulmonary arterial hypertension, absent pulmonary valve syndrome and post-stenotic dilatation of pulmonary stenosis. Left pulmonary artery is dilated in post-stenotic dilatation because the stenotic jet is directed from the main pulmonary artery to the left pulmonary artery as it is in line with it. Right pulmonary artery is oriented transversely in the mediastinum when it courses to the right lung. It is not lined with the direction of main pulmonary artery, hence it is not dilated in post-stenotic dilatation of pulmonary stenosis. Left pulmonary artery is not dilated in idiopathic dilatation of pulmonary artery, that is IDPA. Only main pulmonary artery is dilated in IDPA. Scimitar sign. Anomalous drainage of right pulmonary vein is seen as a curved vascular shadow resembling the Turkish sword, which is called as scimitar. Scimitar syndrome has in addition a hypoplastic right lower lobe of the lung, a small right pulmonary artery, systemic arterial supply to the sequestrated lobe of right lung, and eventuation of right hemidiaphragm. Figure of 8 sign, also known as cottage loaf, and snowman in snowstorm are described in supracardiac variety of total anomalous pulmonary venous connection by drainage. The lower part of the figure 8 is the cardiac shadow, while the upper part is constituted by a combination of the vertical vein, dilated brachiocephalic vein, and superior vena cava. The vertical vein, which ascends up the left side of the spine, receives all the pulmonary venous drainage and in turn empties into the left brachiocephalic vein. The congested lung, if there is pulmonary venous congestion, gives the appearance of snowstorm for the snowman in snowstorm sign. Now we'll have a look at cardiac chambers and pericardium on the chest X-ray. Right atrium forms the right heart border, usually seen just outside the right side of spine. Right atrial enlargement is noted as rightward shift of the right heart border as seen in this chest X-ray. In a standard size chest X-ray film, right heart border more than 5.5 cm from the midline is taken as right atrial enlargement. Left atrial appendage comes in the left heart border just below the pulmonary bay. If it is enlarged, it bulges out, forming the third mogul. Aortic knuckle and main pulmonary artery are the first and second moguls. When the left atrium is enlarged, it forms a double atrial contour or a shadow within shadow or double atrial shadow as shown in this chest X-ray. An aneurysmal left atrium can occasionally extend even beyond right atrial border. Elevation of left bronchus and widening of subcarinal angle are other radiological signs indicating left atrial enlargement seen on this chest X-ray. Right ventricle does not contribute to the cardiac borders, and right ventricular enlargement is difficult to appreciate on chest X-ray PA view. In lateral view, enlarged right ventricle occupies the retrosternal space. In tetralogy of Fallot, a right ventricular type of upturned apex with concave pulmonary segment is known as cor and sabot or peasant's boot appearance. Sabot was a wooden shoe used by poor peasants. A dilated right ventricular outflow tract, as seen in Epstein's anomaly and endomyocardial fibrosis, may form a bulge along the left upper border below the main pulmonary artery segment. In left ventricular enlargement, the apex is shifted down and out, sometimes appearing to dip below the level of the diaphragm on chest X-ray. Left ventricular aneurysm manifests as a bulge on the lower left border above the apex. A submitral left ventricular aneurysm is situated higher up below the pulmonary bay. Cardiac silhouette is enlarged in pericardial effusion. A stenciled out appearance is described due to reduced cardiac motion. It is called water bottle sign and a flask-shaped heart. In hydropneumopericardium, an air fluid level is visible, yellow arrows in the chest X-ray. Pericardial calcification is a feature of chronic constrictive pericarditis. It is often better seen on fluoroscopy rather than plain X-ray. Calcification may be prominent in the atrioventricular groove. Now we'll move on to prosthetic heart valves as they appear on chest X-ray. Approximate positions of the valves as seen on the X-ray are marked here. A line connecting the pulmonary bay to the right cardiophrenic angle is used to get the positions of the aortic and mitral valves. Mitral valve is below this line while aortic valve is above it. Tricuspid valve is a midline structure. But the actual positions of valves may vary from case to case, especially with differential enlargement of the cardiac chambers. Most commonly replaced valves are the mitral and aortic. Tricuspid next and pulmonary the least. Annuloplasty rings used for valve repair may also be seen on chest X-ray. The older prosthetic valves were of ball and cage design. The prototype was Starr Edwards valve, which was the workhorse with valves functioning well in a person over 5 decades. But due to other problems, the valve has been discontinued. The design consists of a cage with a sewing ring and struts. Mitral valve had 4 struts, while the aortic had 3 struts. The X-ray shows a Starr Edwards prosthesis in the mitral position. A ball-shaped poppet moved back and forth during cardiac cycle to open and close the valve. Figure shows a chest X-ray with Starr-Edward prosthetic valve in the aortic position. The valve ring and studs are visible, but the silastic poppet, being non-radiopaque, is not visible. Single-chamber pacemaker and lead is also seen on this chest X-ray. The initial Biot-Shiley valve, which has been discontinued, was a tilting disc valve. Currently, there are single leaflet and bileaflet tilting disc valves. TTK CHP valve is a tilting disc valve with ultra high molecular weight polythene disc which is not radiopaque. The valve ring is visible. Here it is seen on the chest X-ray. This chest X-ray shows prosthetic TTK Chitra mitral valve on the chest X-ray. Only the ring of the valve is visible. The leaflets are non-radiopaque. Though prosthetic valves are seen well on X-ray, they can be evaluated better by fluoroscopy. In fluoroscopy, valve leaflets which are radiopaque can be seen opening and closing at the corresponding time of the cardiac cycle, depending on the position of the valve. A stuck leaflet can be easily identified. Fluoroscopic view of a bileaflet valve is shown in figure with mitral leaflets open. This is the X-ray fluoroscopic image. In addition to the mitral leaflets in fully open position, a left coronary angiogram can be seen in the background. St. Jude Medical and Carbomedic's bileaflet valves have slightly different features, but both have similar clinical performances. Medtronic Hall is a single leaflet valve. Onyx is newer bileaflet valve which has been approved for lesser warfarin requirement in aortic position. Now we look at the cardiac implantable electronic devices, short form CIED, on chest X-ray. Single chamber cardiac pacemakers were the earliest implantable devices to be used ever since the first implant in 1958. Figure shows a single chamber pacemaker with pulse generator and the lead. Two electrodes for stimulation, a proximal ring electrode and a distal tip electrode are seen towards the apex of the right ventricle. This particular X-ray shows a prosthetic aortic valve of the Starr-Edwards type as well. The pulse generator is seen in the right pectoral region. The lead is coursing through the right subclavian vein into the superior vena cava. From superior vena cava, it reaches the right ventricle through the right atrium. A Starr-Edwards prosthetic aortic valve with 3 struts and a swing ring is also seen within the cardiac shadow. This figure shows a dual chamber pacemaker with a right atrial lead and a right ventricular lead. In this case, the pacemaker pulse generator was implanted in the left pectoral region. The leads traverse the left subclavian vein and left brachiocephalic vein to reach the superior vena cava and hence into the atrial chamber as well as ventricular chamber. The atrial lead is a J-shaped lead and tip is usually located in the right atrial appendage. Right ventricular lead was placed at the right ventricular apex. This figure shows a single chamber pacemaker with a screw-in lead kept on the septal aspect of the right ventricle. Septal pacing on right ventricular outflow region may give a narrower QRS complex with better left ventricular synchrony than right ventricular apical pacing. A narrower QRS reduces the long-term chance of left ventricular dysfunction, which is a downside of right ventricular apical pacing. It may be noted that lead tip is located higher than in the previous 2 cases. Implantable cardioverter defibrillator or ICD. ICD is an implantable device which can treat both brady and tachyarrhythmias. If it detects significant bradycardia, it gives backup pacing signals. If a ventricular tachycardia, a fast rhythm originating from the lower chambers of the heart, is detected, it tries initially to suppress it by overdrive pacing, that is giving electrical signals at a rate higher than that of the tachycardia. If overdrive pacing does not succeed, a direct current internal shock is delivered across the high voltage coils to terminate the arrhythmia. If a very fast ventricular tachycardia which is life-threatening or a ventricular fibrillation is detected, the device straightaway gives a direct current shock to terminate the arrhythmia. This figure shows the ICD with 2 high voltage coils, one in superior vena cava and another in the right ventricle, and 2 pacing electrodes near the tip of the right ventricular lead. This is a single chamber ICD. A dual chamber ICD will have an additional atrial lead which is useful in sensing atrial arrhythmias and avoiding unnecessary shocks. Chest X-ray showing implantable cardioverter defibrillator with 2 high voltage electrode coils and 2 pacing electrodes. Cardiac resynchronization therapy is an advanced form of 3-chamber pacing which is used to synchronize left ventricular contraction in heart failure. Hence, they are also known as heart failure devices. An ICD can be included in the device, then it will be called CRT-D, while the plain CRT will be called CRT-P. This figure shows a CRT-P device with 1 atrial lead and 1 lead each in right ventricle and coronary vein, that is to pace the left ventricle epicardially. This is the chest X-ray showing CRT-P with pulse generator and 3 leads. This figure shows fluoroscopic view of 3 leads of a CRT-P. It shows an atrial lead, right ventricular lead and a left ventricular lead in the coronary vein. Since it is a CRT-P, no high voltage coils are seen. The CRT fluoroscopic view of 3 leads of a CRT is seen here. For CRT-D, the device will be larger as it requires a larger battery for delivering defibrillator shocks. In addition, 2 high voltage electrodes will be present, one in the superior vena cava and another in the right ventricle. CRT-D was also called a combo device as it was a combination of CRT and ICD. Subcutaneous ICD is a leadless ICD with a device implanted subcutaneously in the left infraaxillary region. An electrode is placed subcutaneously on the left side of the sternum. The shock is delivered between the electrode and the body of the ICD can. Though it can deliver post-shock bradycardia pacing for a short period, it cannot deliver overdrive pacing for a tachyarrhythmia. Leadless pacemaker is a cylindrical capsule-like device with structures to anchor to the right ventricular wall. They do not have external leads and can be implanted through the femoral vein into the right ventricle. While all the above were therapeutic devices, an implantable loop recorder or ILR is a purely diagnostic device. It can be implanted subcutaneously in the infraclavicular region and will function up to 3 years. ILR is very useful in the detection of intermittent arrhythmias which are infrequent but potentially dangerous. Please subscribe to this channel for future updates. Thank you.